community transmissions happening there.
After the US, they are the second country with the highest testing, 5.6 million, and US 9.6 million.
Right.
So that tells you with more testing, more identification.
All right. We talked about Central America and South America yesterday. Mexico, a country that we looked at yesterday also, in the last 6 hours, if we're looking at GMT again, Mexico has recorded almost 2,000 cases. That was between midnight our time and now as we speak. 1,997
How are these cases being logged? Is it electronically? So there's an app that's updating?
Yes.
As a new case comes in?
It's updated, absolutely. That's what goes
So not
on.
waiting for a health minister to do it in the
Well,
afternoon?
No. When the country announces, then this app now updates based on the announcements that countries make. So they're not just doing their own research. They're getting it country-specific.
But now, when you talk about in the last 6 hours, we have this number of cases. Does it mean that the country is announcing hourly?
No.
Or how do we know that in the last 6 hours is the number of cases?
Because it's updated on the app. But you must understand, for example, Mexico, they're in Central America. So they are around about 10 p.m. By the time these were logged, it was around 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Our time.
Right.
So it goes onto the app, and then we see that as cases that they've logged. And it probably might go up by the time the day is over. So these are their cases for yesterday.
Okay, so these are the cases for yesterday.
Yes.
So they're not, basically, they don't have a place where the numbers are rising just by
No.
the
They
minute.
wait for the announcement from certain governments.
Okay.
All right. We see the same thing in Pakistan with 1,662 cases in the same time period. South Africa rose by a little over 1,000 cases yesterday, so they're now at 11,350 cases. Interesting to see that they have the exact same numbers as the Philippines. 11,350 cases in the Philippines, 11,350 cases in South Africa, with 206 deaths in South Africa and triple the deaths in the Philippines. So 751 deaths in the Philippines with 206 cases deaths in South Africa. All right. Continue to look around Africa. Nigeria's cases steadily rising, a lot higher than what we saw yesterday. Increased by 500 and so. So we're at 4,767. Ghana took a leap yesterday and went to 5,127, still with 22 deaths. But of course, we know that the testing is still quite rigorous here as well. Okay, so I think this is what we are seeing generally from about last week. The cases around Africa rising steadily and very close, just crossed the 70,000 case mark on the continent, whereas 3 weeks ago we were under 25,000. But then we also see that the case for testing has been put through in many, many countries, and this is why we see an increase in numbers.
So over 70,000 cases in Africa.
Yes.
Less than 2,000 deaths in Africa.
Yeah. Right.
If you compare that to the other countries where you had at least, by the time they're getting to 80,000 cases, the death toll was much higher.
It was much higher. And that's what I was going to say in this case, that the prediction was that you would have basically so many deaths in Africa by now because of the quote-unquote inability then of health systems to take care of people who are essentially sick. And we see that is not happening right now.
An interesting country here, Mauritius. For the last 15 days, they have been coronavirus free. They've had a total of 322 cases and 10 deaths. They've done 73,572 tests so far for COVID. Since 27th April, no reported coronavirus at all. Then they had a list of 220 repatriated citizens whom are all under quarantine until now.
For how long have they been in quarantine?
They haven't said how long, but they haven't said how long, but since they came in,
they're basically taken into quarantine.
Yeah. So no 10 deaths, and all cases have been closed actually. So 322 recoveries and 10 deaths. And they have closed no coronavirus.
No new case.
No new case. And I thought that's remarkable for a small Indian Ocean island. that's doing well.
It's a good thing that it's an island.
It is.
Oh, did they borrow something from Madagascar? Because Madagascar is the immediate neighbor.
Yeah.
And they still have 186 cases in Madagascar. No reports of new cases.
No new cases reported.
New cases. Right.
Interesting. I hope
so.
it's that there's no case, but not that there's no case reported officially.
I think one of the few countries that we see now, we don't know what the case is, but with the countries that we know they're going to be giving updates on a weekly basis is Tanzania. And so we see that holding fast at 509 since Sunday. And it's likely to be that way until another Sunday rolls around before we see any more cases coming out of there. So in terms of reporting, Madagascar has been reporting as they come. We don't know how rigorous their testing is. Maybe we need to find out details about this, but they've held solid at 186. Rwanda still at 286 with no deaths. If we look down at Uganda still 129 cases and no deaths whatsoever, and they're still holding fast to this. So nothing has changed drastically. I still look at countries like Greenland, where they got 11 cases, and for the last 5 weeks, no more cases. And we know that Greenland, of course, being such a huge mass geographically and sparse population, still, they've not let anybody in.
Yeah.
And those that have been sick have all recovered. So you could say that Greenland is at a place whereby no corona, they're corona-free for now. I thought that was interesting. Papua New Guinea also is the same. And we look at countries whereby it seems that Western Sahara also is there. We don't know if they were testing or they stopped it, but they found 6 cases and no more since we last report. St. Barth, same thing. Anguilla, St. Pierre, Miquelon. These are small islands, small French islands. Polynesian islands of Papua New Guinea, they have found cases and then never again. The Falkland Islands, 13 cases and nothing after that. So there's some countries, few cases seeped through the borders. They were able to seal those holes, and either they decided, well, forget this, we're not testing. We're going to stay at that number. All of those who got sick recovered, and we're able to move on.
Basically, how a country is interconnected with the world in terms of its transport infrastructure exposes it to higher risk.
That's true.
And even the connection with the neighbors. So island countries that don't have many land neighbors, land borders also, will be able to fight this very clearly. I think we'll be discussing this a bit later in the show on how we treat our borders as well. We saw a government delegation visiting Namanga yesterday. They've been to Sibania the other day. We have seen this conversation happening between the presidents. They had a conversation yesterday as well. And what is it that we ought to do as East Africa to fight this corona together? Either we fight it together or we decide to fight it individually. And every country basically just closes itself down and fights, and then we shall meet on the other end.
Right.
The country that survives, the countries that survive corona.
They survive.
Yeah,
They survive.
We will talk after this is over. For now, we close ourselves down. So we're taking a short break now. We take a look at traffic, not traffic, but weather shortly. And then the conversation continues where we start to look at the newspaper headlines. A lot happened yesterday in terms of politics. A lot is happening as well in terms of the fight against COVID and the flood-prone areas. Also, a lot has happened. We've seen more landslides in West Pokot. People have been displaced. It's important to keep track of all these things, lest we forget that we still have locusts also in the country. 17 minutes after 6, this is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, it's a bit of a warm morning in Nairobi. We'll see clear skies this morning at 17 degrees. It'll close up later though, highs of 25 and lows of 16 with showers expected through most parts of the city. In Nyeri at 15 degrees, you see partly cloudy conditions. It'll be a wet afternoon though, highs of 25 and lows of 14. Partly cloudy in Nakuru at 14 degrees. The rain's going to come in though later in the afternoon with highs of 25. In Eldoret at 12 degrees, it's partly cloudy conditions all through today, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Likely to have clear skies this morning, but we'll go back to rain settings in the afternoon in Kisumu. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. Mombasa is cloudy this morning. Chances of rain are quite high this morning. However, there will be partly cloudy conditions throughout the afternoon with highs of 29 and lows of 25. It's cloudy in Malindi at 26 degrees. Cloudy conditions are going to prevail through the day with highs of 29. In Kampala this morning at 19 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. The rain's going to set in, though, for quite a wet afternoon, and it'll take through into the night. Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees is going to follow in the same pattern. Thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon throughout Dar es Salaam and then throughout most of Tanzania with highs of 29 and lows of 24. It's 9 degrees with clear skies in Johannesburg. Sunny conditions all through today with highs of 21. It's going to get quite chilly, though, with a low of 6. Taking a look into Lagos when the sun comes up at 27 degrees, it'll be clear skies all through. Partly cloudy conditions in the early evening with highs of 33 and lows of 26. Take a look into Paris at 8 degrees. When the sun comes up, it'll be front and center for most parts of the day. Partly cloudy conditions then will ensue in parts of the evening. Highs of 17 and lows of 6. And into New York, where it's cloudy conditions right now, almost heading to midnight. When the sun comes up later, it'll be highs of 16 and lows of 6 throughout the day. And wrap things up in London. Anti-Trump diplomacy.
There's an issue also of cross-border commerce along this borderline, all the way from the coast going to Nyanza. Villagers cross from this side to that side to go and trade. This is how they've operated for ages. Some coming over into Kenya to work, other Kenyans going into TZ to look for work. And now you're basically telling all those people, stop that. It's going to be very hard to police, and it will have a huge impact on the relations between the two communities right from the very beginning. Because now you're telling Kenyans, if you see somebody who's come from Tanzania, report them to the nearest police station or report them to the nearest authorities. It's not going to be easy for you to be able to do this.
Of course it's not going to be easy, but it's something that we have to buckle down and bear. Absolutely. It's something you have to buckle down and bear. Otherwise, the repercussions will be much worse than this conversation we're having about whether we should or not. It will be more difficult to broach at that point than this decision to make now. They were saying, should we? Then what would happen if we don't? But guess what? If you don't, what would happen is much worse than the uncomfortability of the conversation.
And then let's not pretend that it's only the East African community that is struggling with border closures. No. Many countries close their borders. Many countries close their borders. We were just talking about Russia. Exactly. You have Canada and the US.
Mexico and the US.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with this all the time. I mean, look at it. The other day when Trump talked about stopping all flights from Europe, one of their biggest commercial ventures when it comes to huge.
Yep.
But said, look,
that was essentially closing a border.
There you go. It's not a match. It's not about emotions. It's not about does it sound sexy if we can call it. No. It's are we going to save people? Yes. Let's go ahead and do it.
The conversation continues on our social media handles: Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Instagram. Coming to the top of the hour, today's proverb is from the Bambara people of Mali. No matter how long a log stays in water, it does not become a crocodile. No matter how long a log stays in water, it does not become a crocodile. Have you been seeing a crocodile in water? Now water has receded. Maybe you're now realizing that all you've been seeing all along
is a log.
Is a log. A log is a log is a log. Good morning. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 9 o'clock.
Definitely back to the city.
Fantastic.
I'm telling you. It's fantastic, isn't it? Right, so Thika Road is back to settings, as we can see this morning. It is bumper to bumper, and now trying to get off Thika Road into the CBD seems to be a moment in hell this morning. Hopefully that will open up in a little bit. We saw that it was getting better, but then like that, out of the blue, everybody's on the road. Where are you going, guys? That's a question. We know where you're going. Coming off of Wayaki Way and then Museum Hill, people are using the inner roads to avoid the traffic that is on Uhuru Highway. Hopefully that can open up a bit. We still have the issue of Luvuli Avenue right in the middle of the CBD, and trying to patrol and see how that can be opened up a bit. But apart from that, everywhere else is behaving as normal times. We'll see what it looks like in a bit, but for now you can navigate it as best you can. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's know what you see.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain...
Biggest conversation. In the room this morning, we are also joined by Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist, our guest host for the season. Now, what's the nation headline again, Ndu?
Who's next on the chopping block? Who's next on the chopping block? National Assembly is the next stop in the titanic battle between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, whose allies rushed to court yesterday to stop the onslaught. And it seems that certain individuals, and let's start with Aden Duale, Majority Leader Aden Duale and MP for Garissa Township, he may escape the axe as he is considered a moderate. We spoke about this a little bit yesterday. Kimani Ichung'wah, Kikuyu MP, is the chair of the powerful budget committee. He is targeted for the sack over attacks on the president. Benjamin Washiali, Mumias East MP and National Assembly Chief Whip, is the DP's ally and is expected to be shown the door. Cecily Mbarire, nominated MP, is Mr. Washiali's deputy in the House. Her position may go to Murang'a MP Sabina Chege.
Hey. And then the standard. What next for Ruto? He's at a crossroads. Even as the bruised DP remained mum yesterday, a day after Uhuru took control of the Senate leadership from his troops, the DP must have been weighing his options. We're looking at those options and his narrowing choices. Standard, page 4, page 5. So the chopping block is back out today, and the president has asked members of the National Assembly members of Parliament from the Jubilee and KANU to meet him at State House.
When are they meeting?
State House.
State House.
When?
Today.
Today, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the knife has already been sharpened.
Yes.
The chopping board has been cleaned and wiped nicely. So
For the next head.
yeah, come.
Sanitize.
Kujeni.
Yeah, on the Standards op-ed, there is an interesting opinion here, though it's not written from who. This is at the Palaver. But come to think of it, don't you think there could be a silver lining in the tribulations of Deputy President William Ruto? The thing is, nearly all political parties that matter are angling for collaboration with Jubilee. Once they ink the agreements and become one party, the ordinary man will be on his own. However, were Ruto to get out of Jubilee, we can surely have a reliable opposition. The beauty is we end up having only two parties, ruling and the opposition, instead of 200 useless parties. So
Yeah.
it's an option.
Yeah. But we'll still have those many parties, just that they'll be cooperating and working together and all. And yes, we'll have now a definite opposition. We'll have a clear wing of the party. The thing is, those guys are not going... They will be there'll still be Jubilee. I don't see any member of parliament resigning to go and seek re-election at this point so that they can be an MP for a different party. There'll still be MP and a Jubilee ticket until 2022. So we'll have a wing of Jubilee that's in the opposition and a wing of Jubilee that's in government. It's just like SPLA in Uganda. In South Sudan. So as SPLA in government and SPLA in opposition. Bas.
We're just rebellious. We no longer agree with your ideas. We no longer agree with your chain of thought. So we are in the same house, but we agree to disagree.
In different
stay
rooms.
In the guest room, I stay in the living room. When I need to move, I'll inform you that I'm moving.
So that we don't clash.
Yeah.
Right. The word onslaught, though, seems to be very apt for what is happening because there's no break in this.
It's sustained.
It's like a tattoo. You don't stop. You finish until you keep going until you finish the full picture. You don't take a break and say, come back tomorrow. No, it just seems to be coming. And it's coming and it's saying, we're cleaning up shop here. We're cleaning up the house. And we finish one section. We go to the next and the next until we are done with what we intended to do.
Yeah.
And, it could have been said that at the end of last week that there was speculation as to what was going to happen Monday, Tuesday. But speculation then became reality. So if that is what we're going by in terms of what happened in the Senate, then we're likely to see that the speculation will turn into reality at the National Assembly.
Benjamin Washiali will definitely lose his position. Aden Duale, we don't know. We're waiting to see.
Yeah, because like I said, he's been moderate, right? And he's been folding his hands to his chest.
Has he been moderate or just lying low like an antelope?
Just like that. He's just been
like
playing.
A log.
Like a log. In water.
The Mali proverb. The other thing that I keep wondering, is it by design or is it by design that these meetings are being held in State House? Because you can only access State House on invitation.
Yep.
If it's a Jubilee party agenda, why not hold it in the Jubilee headquarters? They have a big building on Thika Road.
The leader of the party lives in State House.
And we're observing social distancing.
That we can't be traipsing all over the place.
And we have enough space.
There's
to
enough
host
space
you
in State House to have a meeting like this.
But
instead of me jumping up and down, you all come here. We maintain social distance. Let me tell you
look at the number of people that attended. Let's say there were 20. You want to tell me the Jubilee headquarters, that massive building, cannot host 20 people?
It's not as big as
let's say 30, for example.
Yeah. It can.
So is it by design?
You're saying there's a statement that's being made by the invitation to State House?
I think so.
Do you think he's avoiding clashing with the other side, organizing rowdy youth to come and make noise and do all those things?
Because you think about State House right now, just walk anywhere near State House and look like you're looking for directions, my friend. You will get proper directions.
Be you Washiali and you have not received that SMS. You say, iko mkutano
So for me, there seems to be something in here with the choice of venue for this particular event, because surely
it's telling.
The president, the leader of the party, can just go across town. It will take him like 5-10 minutes to get to the party headquarters. The roads will be cleared for him, everything.
Right, but in this case, you come to power.
So there's
power
a statement
doesn't come
there.
to you, of course.
So there's a statement in there.
It's very clear.
So then the other question is it possible then, because anyway, this side said they were invited, this side they said they were not invited. Is it possible then that they were actually not invited?
Oh, it's possible.
Anything is possible.
It's possible that they received an SMS that was, a broadcast SMS, but their name was not at the gate. So yeah, but boss, mimi jina, I operate with this. I don't operate with your message.
Yeah,
I operate with what I have here.
Umesema wewe ni nani?
Your name is not here.
Umesema wewe ni nani? Kutoka wapi? Nani amekutuma hapa?
Wacha tupige huko ndani tuulize. Umepiga? Ngojea, simu haiendi through. Wamezima simu. Waambie Kipchumba kwa hapa. Simu yendi through, tunangojea tuambiwe. It'll take forever, and this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing. So Kipchumba yesterday stood up after the speaker had already announced and said, this is what's going to happen now. I have received the new leadership of the majority is so and so. And Kipchumba stood up and said, all right, Sawa.
I'm done.
Okay. But I served the people of Kenya.
Oh, even further than but. He said, "No, if I."
You are very polite with what he said.
This morning,
Eric.
I think he went further to pass a message, very solid message, and he said, "If I was your stumbling block in the development that you wanted to bring to this country,
Now deliver.
in the outstanding bills that have been brought before the Senate, in the unleashing of funds from Treasury to allow Senate then to push forth these bills after they've been pushed forth, then for enactment in the country. If I have been the stumbling block in all of this, then please, Mr. President, do not hold back in getting this work done." In no uncertain terms.
Murkomen is out of the way.
So now, if I'm out of the way, get this job done.
Yeah. She'll deliver.
And we'll hold you to task. We've put you to task and we'll hold you to that task to make sure that you actually get this work done. If I have been the stumbling block, now that you have removed me, I dare you to do that work, which is basically what he said. So, I mean, he didn't just relent and slink away with the dog with the tail between his legs.
This is the language of even a small boy who's just been kicked out of a team. Kama ni mimi ndio simshinde basi. Just because you've been substituted by the coach. Kama ni mimi ndio kama mnafanya mshindo simshinde.
But
as you're walking off the pitch, I'm the reason why you've considered the entire team has conceded 10 goals. Now that I'm out, so you win. Let's see you win.
And with that, I agree with one of the opinions in the Palava that it is an African to quit the ring without putting up a fight. Yeah. Even when you're on the floor and the opponent is standing over you, even if you've received a knockout, continue punching.
Yeah.
Do not go down without a fight. Even when you know you have lost it, at least now, imagine if he had just walked away. We wouldn't have anything interesting to say. But now we are talking about how he's reminded Eric about the time he was kicked out of a team and he complained.
Ouch.
And he complained, and probably the team went ahead to not win anyway.
Substituted this guy who was playing absolutely bollocks after so long, and the guy was there blaming everybody else but himself and saying, "Come on, Mimi, I was the reason why this team is losing. Why? See, watch it when Kishinda. Of course, we didn't win." And forever he said,
"See,
they removed me, saying I was the reason why the team was not doing well. Why didn't they win?
Kama hawangenitoa tungeshinda.
In fact, I had a very good plan. It's the captain who kept not listening to what I'm telling them."
The captain also said, indeed, it's headed towards the National Assembly. And we know that because there's a meeting happening this morning. The captain, or in this case, the co-captain, says, but we are still monitoring. We're watching the game as it's being played. This is now in the person of Raphael Tuju. And we are watching the behavior of the leaders. We will not tolerate deviant behavior. We won't. You mess up, you misbehave, we remove you.
You get into the list.
Oh, yeah. Saber in very fast.
But if you look at this purge has been long coming. It started with the parastatals, then the CSs that were aligned. Now they've gotten to them, to Parliament. So it's been long coming. I don't think anyone should be surprised that now we are here. And we know where ultimately they are targeting.
You know, some of these leaders as well. So Oscar Sudi, MP, went into social media and he said, we tirelessly campaigned for Uhuru Kenyatta. Usiku na mchana. Hata tukiimba Uhuru Ruto tano tena. However, I've never seen a cheap president like this one. How can a whole president fight a woman like Susan Kihika? A young man like Kipchumba Murkomen? It's shameful for a president to engage in a political tussle with such small people.
That's what it is now.
And we'll continue seeing mudslinging.
It's from across the ring. You can't even from far, shouting as you're being pulled away.
Take a step in that direction and they'll retreat.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what did this particular group of people do when Senator Wetangula was removed by the NASA coalition?
They laughed. They were like, ha.
What did they do? Because
it was not their fight.
They were really not involved at that point, so they couldn't say anything. I mean, they could, but to what benefit? It wasn't
not
their
my
fight.
Forest, not my monkeys.
Not my monkeys. I will watch from the I'll watch from the bleachers and see what's going to be happening in there.
Yeah. What do you think Orengo is doing now? Orengo is just sitting there.
Where is have you heard Raila?
And exactly my point, because when your colleague is facing something is getting oppressed or is suffering and whatnot, and you sit by the wayside and just look and say it's not my fight, your turn will come. It has come. Had they said something about it, they would have set precedents. They would have stood up for somebody. Whether you win or lose, you have stood up.
But you know,
when your turn comes,
but procedure was followed in the removal of Wetangula. So what would stood up for what and said, why have you removed Wetangula? It's within the prerogative of the minority to choose its leadership. And if the minority wants to change its leadership, it's within their so we'd have stood up and said, "Oh, why are you going against Wetangula?"
Then in that case,
but you have to look at this purge and this onslaught and what is being
other
called
people's
at this
domestics,
point.
mercy, leave them alone.
In this case, the individuals who've been called out, as it were people who were vocal. And they did not relent. They also had their vocal onslaught, or in this case, their alignment to the deputy president and the manner in which he had behaved at one point or another. Their can I call it their fanship for him was not hidden in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And it is because of that behavior now that they are being seen to be punished. That is it.
This is it.
All of these individuals who have been pinpointed here were never quiet about their stance. In most cases, they joined the DP, as it were, in the reported or the alleged camp going against the presidency, not deputizing the president as was his mandate in the position of deputy president. And these individuals were seen to have supported him. So, as you said, it's going slowly, inching across higher. Let's see where this train is going to stop.
That's the way it goes. 17 minutes after 9, let's take a look at weather and then continue this conversation. We'll be joined shortly by political analyst Dismas Mokua. Dismas Mokua will be joining us shortly. We'll look at this. So, the options for the deputy president and what happens now to Jubilee. Good morning.
Nairobi, the promise of rain is still high today. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16 in the city today. In Nyeri at 16 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. We'll see a rain in the afternoon. It'll be a wet afternoon across central Kenya, moving then towards the Rift. In Eldoret at 13 degrees, it'll be partly cloudy conditions. Rain, as we said, expected there later as well. In Kisumu, partly cloudy conditions, and we'll see rain very shortly. Highs of 27 and lows of 19, going well into the evening. It's cloudy conditions in Mombasa, a light shower here and there. At 28 degrees, we'll see highs of 29. The rain that will come in later will definitely cool things down. In Malindi at 29 degrees, only partly cloudy conditions, and these are likely to carry through the rest of the day. In Kampala, we see partly cloudy conditions now. It'll be a wet afternoon there, currently at 22 degrees, and we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is also a cloudy morning. It's likely to be this way through the day when the rains then come in later, with highs of 29 and lows of 24. Johannesburg at 12 degrees is partly cloudy. Sunny conditions through most of the day, with highs of 21 and lows of 6. We'll wrap things up in Lagos today, where thunderstorms are the order of the morning and likely to go in through most of the day, with highs of 33 and lows of 27.
At 19 minutes after 9, the conversation continues. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Latif, Mercy Korir, Ndu Oko, and now joining us on the line is Dismas Mokua. He's a political analyst.
Spice up your
good
life.
morning, Dismas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
good morning, Dismas.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
My pleasure. I'm very delighted to be in this room in a virtual manner.
Kabisa. Now, you're seeing what's happening in Jubilee. Jubilee has gone and formed an alliance with KANU, And then the side of Jubilee that's aligned to the president has launched a direct onslaught on the side of Jubilee that's associated with the deputy president. What do you make of all these moves?
Well, there are many things which come to my mind. Number one is what we've said all along, that you have a Jubilee in government and you have Jubilee in opposition.
Mm.
It's now very crystal clear that you have those two Jubilees. But you have to go back to the handshake between Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta, because it's that handshake which gives President Kenyatta the political insurance that he needs to move Kenya to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot be running a political party and your own members are proactively insubordinating you. When you tell them, let's drive to Kisii, they tell you, Mr. President, we are not going to Kisii, we are going to Mombasa.
Yep.
And then when you do your analysis, you discover that it's actually, they're taking instructions from your deputy party leader and they're taking instructions from your deputy president. So at some stage, any rational leader will ask himself, am I going to be held hostage by my political party members, or should I go across the road and speak with my political competition to give numbers so that I create stability for my political party? And I think for President Kenyatta, it was long overdue. Because as a president, he's made many policy decisions and pronouncements, but he gets active opposition, not from ODM, not from ANC, not from Ford Kenya or Wiper, but from his own political party. Like, for instance, a few days ago when he said that Nairobi is sinking in garbage, I need to turn it around. 50% of his political party look at him, they say, Mr. President, this is the wrong direction. We are not going to support you. So I think as a president, one has to ask himself, am I running Kenya because of my political party, or am I going to pursue national and public interest? But things which are very rare and only happen in Kenya, that you have your deputy president in active acts of insubordination. A meeting is taking place at State House, and then we are told that people who are aligned to Tanga have been told, don't show up, don't attend that meeting. And at this meeting, there's a young man called Sakaja who made very interesting remarks at the house yesterday, that even if you don't like the president, or say Musalia Mudavadi or Kalonzo, but when your seniors call you for a meeting, you show up. You may disagree with the content of the meeting, but you don't disagree to the call. And I think for us as Kenyans, we need to ask ourselves, that is the behavior of our politicians consistent with our public interest or national interest, or are they merely driving their personal agenda? Now, if somebody is selfish interest and not consistent with Kenya's national and public interest, then we need to create room for him in the dustbin, and we tell them it's big business.
And dump him in there.
There's
something that you raised just before Ndu also brings her question. You told us to head back to the handshake in March 2018. Handshake between the president and Raila Odinga. And then you've taken us through that journey of what has happened since then. Do you think that it was part of the primary strategies of the president to approach or to have that sit down with Raila to create that insurance for himself? Or do you think the fallout with the deputy president was a consequence of the handshake?
Well, it was not a consequence of the handshake, because you remember we had elections. Again, Kenya is a country of first. We were the first country to have the presidential election nullified. And then Raila Odinga and NASA said we are not going to participate in the second election till you give us reassurances that these illegalities and irregularities, as pronounced by the Supreme Court, have been sorted out. Then IBC started doing games around town, running all over like headless chicken. They did not give anybody the reassurance that the elections was going to be free, fair, predictable. They did not create those predictable systems for unpredictable outcomes. Instead, what you had were systems, jumping all over like popcorn in a frying pan, but the outcome was very predictable who was going to win. So at that stage, when President Kenyatta was sworn into office, then also Raila Odinga had his own swearing in. So you have two people with the greatest political capital in Kenya who are not having a conversation. Because then when Raila Odinga tells his supporters jump, they ask how high. He doesn't need to give them reasons. When President Kenyatta does the same, they jump. He doesn't need to give them any logic. So Kenya was getting into a standstill. And then, so President Kenyatta knew that I'll not be able to make any progress without having a conversation with Raila Odinga. And even Raila Odinga had come to a dead end. He needed to resuscitate himself. So the handshake was a very good exit strategy for him.
Yeah.
Never mind that he did it all alone without consulting his other partners within NASA. And President Kenyatta, he said not to have consulted his deputy president. Yeah. So it was a two-man show, which even up to date, we haven't been told what was the outcome of that meeting, what did they agree on.
So back to my question then, do you think then the fallout between the president and his deputy was as a result of this handshake, or do you think that the president already knew that there's going to be a fallout and he was setting himself with what you're calling a serious insurance by working with Raila and getting those numbers that support him and getting the direct opposition working with him, then he's able to deal with Ruto?
Well, you know, Ruto is a young politician in Kenya compared to other politicians who's ruthlessly ambitious. He wants to get to the top very fast, and whatever it needs to be done is going to do it. And politicians who work with him, they said, you cannot take his word to the bank. So he's unpredictable, like most politicians. And the President Kenyatta needed a bit of predictability for the next 5 years. He did not want Raila Odinga to keep on opening fires. He did not want his deputy to keep on opening fires. Because those are the only two politicians who can make the life of President Kenyatta a bit of a nightmare. And he needed to control them. So either way, for him to run Kenya, he needs one of those politicians to be reliable. And it seems to me he probably established using his infrastructure, his intelligence, that among these two people, the one that I can cut a deal with is Raila Odinga. Yeah, and don't forget that the two political families have known each other right from even before independence. Because, you know, the old Jomo Kenyatta, I understand he was born around 1825, and Jaramogi Oginga around 1911. And the two have had a relationship even before we got independence. They've known each other, they're family friends, understand they attend birthday parties, weddings, they have drinks every now and again. So they know each other very well. They can cut deals.
No, you had a question for him.
So, I mean, Dismas, we talked about the fact that, all right, a meeting is taking place at State House. Certain people to which an invitation has been extended did not show up. Can you liken this to direct disrespect to the presidency or to the leader of the party?
Well, if you say direct disrespect, that's the understatement of the year.
Okay.
That is flipping the bird on the president, showing him the middle finger, insulting him, and telling him, Sheng utadu, Sikuji utadu. Yeah. Because you see, you may not like the president of the Republic of Kenya, but he's a symbol of national unity. When he invites you, you don't know what is in the agenda.
You know when this must. Now, this is where we come in. You already have feelers, and you know the agenda for this meeting is to discuss. The agenda was clear. Discuss the leadership of the Senate.
And replace.
No. What we have been told, I mean, if the agenda is clear, you've been told you are going to discuss the leadership, does that automatically mean that I want to kick you out?
Yes.
Actually,
in this particular case,
the minutes of the meeting said that they had only 2 points in its agenda: the removal of Senate leadership and the election of a new one, and then any other business.
Yeah, in that case, go for the meeting. If they want to kick you out, raise your hand, tell Mr. President, have I done any mistake, any error, omission or commission? Allow me to play ball, because sometimes in politics there's a big challenge of managing expectations. President Kenyatta would be having his expectations. Kipchumba Murkomen, who is my very friend, would be having his expectations. Now, if the two of you do not sit down and manage your expectations, then you know, for Kipchumba Murkomen would be knowing that having generals run Nairobi City is not a very good idea. He's exercising his freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, which is allowed in the Kenyan Constitution. But probably for the president, he says, you can only express your opinion consistent with my thinking. Now you need to meet and manage those expectations. So for me, I mean, if today I get an invitation to go meet with the devil, I'll show up. I'll probably save the world after that meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Dismas, do you see a situation where, with this purge, there is lacuna of sorts in the Jubilee Party as it is? Do you see an attempt by the Jubilee in government to bring in, let me call them, quote unquote, fallen politicians, previous politicians that are probably vocal in that part of the rift, to solidify that particular base that they think they are losing or they have lost?
Well, right now, the two big political players in Kenya, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, are pulling in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
They do not need any other person in government to stabilize their leadership.
Yeah.
Because the ship is very steady. With those two people together, it's very steady, which now brings a challenge to Kenya. Because we need to be asking ourselves every single day, whatever Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta are doing, is it consistent with our national interest?
Yeah.
Is it consistent with our public interest?
Yeah.
Because right now, there is no effective person who can look at them in the eye and say, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it's very, very dangerous. That's the reason why many people said, this handshake, we need to be told, whose interest is it serving? Is it serving two political families?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's serving Mora, Wanjiko, and Nafula? That one has not been crystallized. But what happened yesterday...
You were told it's building bridges for Mora, Wanjiko, and Nafula to cross over into the new Nirvana.
Yeah, but we know this Nirvana, we don't know what it's all about. We need clarity. We need very good definition.
This must have an issue here. This must have a problem here, because we're talking about the people's interest, national interest, public interest. And if we want to look at where public interest has laid for the last 5 years, let's just talk about 5 years in Kenya. People's interest is so that they can get food on the table. People's interest is so that they can be proper infrastructure, so that they can move their products from farm to market. People's interest is that they can rely on a healthcare system that actually works, on an educational system that is so well buffered that their children don't have to look for options outside the country. That, for me, is where people's interests lie. So now if we want to ask ourselves, if you want to look across BBI, you want to look at upheaval in the Senate, in the National Assembly, that is not in bed with people's interest. It seems to me that it's so polarized from where people's interest, national people's interest for the country is. It seems to be a huge disconnect. So how then are we supposed to reconcile what is going on that takes the country by storm vis-a-vis what the people actually need, which is, in essence, is what government should be doing?
Well, our biggest challenge is that majority of Kenyans are largely rational human beings just before the election. But 3 weeks to the elections, all of us, for some reason, we become irrational. And we become emotional. That's when you remember that I'm a Kisii man. Where are my Kisii political leaders voting? Then I go to the ballot box. I vote not based on my selfish interest, but on the selfish interest of these political leaders. And I erroneously believe that our selfish interests are in harmony.
Aligned, yes.
That's how aligned, yes. That's how you get yourself electing people in Kenya into leadership positions, MCAs, senators, members of the National Assembly, governors, who on a normal day cannot win an election to be the chairman of a cattle dip in my village, because we cannot trust them with 1,000 bob to buy sprays. But we can trust them with the county budget, we can trust them with the national budget, we can trust them to make laws at the National Assembly and the Senate.
Yeah.
Now for us, we need to... Actually, I think right now we are suffering from buyer's remorse. Maybe it's a voter's remorse. We know we are voting unacceptable quality. We are voting people who score an A in impunity, mediocrity, and corruption, and then we expect them to deliver miracles.
Yeah.
Like a couple of days ago, people have been saying Governor Andrew Cuomo in the US is doing a good job discussing COVID. Why can't we have our leaders in Kenya doing the same? But we decided to sacrifice meritocracy. Because someone has come to your village, is given you a basket with cooking fats and ugali and sukuma wiki, then you say, this is a big deal for me, this is the kind of guy we need.
Yeah.
So the moment we start voting with our selfish interest in mind, we wouldn't be in this situation.
This must stay on the line. This conversation continues. We'll also open up the phone lines for people to engage with you and with us. 0719-012-600. Which way, that when we come back out of this conversation, which way Jubilee, which way William Ruto? That's why we are. And which way who else? Dr. Mercy? Which way
Raila.
Kenyans? Which way Raila as well? 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at traffic.
Okay, so while you were away, there's a bad accident that's happened right on the Thika Superhighway this morning, a few minutes ago actually, between, a bus and a smaller vehicle, and it has killed a couple of people this morning. You want to approach with extreme caution, waiting for emergency services to get there, but that's going to heighten the traffic situation already on the road this morning. Again, an accident happened on the Thika Superhighway involving a bus and a smaller vehicle, and it's a fatal accident, so please be very careful when approaching the area. And then in true fine form, a nasty collision having knocked down someone on Mombasa Road this morning right after Bellevue. So there again is an issue, and waiting for emergency services to come and please assist is the call now. So that also will affect traffic. So if you're stuck before or after, that's the problem. There's an accident there on Mombasa Road. So the two highways, Mombasa and Thika Road, experiencing accidents right now. Stay safe, guys. Spice of MKE, let us know what else you see.
On the line is Dismas Mukuru.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station.
And Nduoko. We're looking at the politics of the day. So there's a lot that's happening in Jubilee, and there's now it's moving from the Senate, it's going to the National Assembly. What next for William Ruto, Dismas Mukuru?
Well, when you're talking about Dr. William Samoei Ruto, we have to make a flight to Nigeria.
Okay, now that you're going
to
Dr. William Samoei Ruto, EGH.
So we have to treat him with that. You have to give him his respect because he's a sharp, brilliant politician.
Mm-hmm.
He says he was born barefoot, and right now he can dine with kings and royalty.
Mm-hmm.
And he says it's been hard work. Other people may say that he's misappropriated resources, but he says it's hard work. He can account for every coin.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to Nigeria, we meet Atiku Abubakar, who was a President Obasanjo's vice president. And he behaved in a similar manner to Dr. Ruto.
Yeah.
By, started to antagonize him. And he was told, young man, you are very rich, you are powerful, you impressive networks, and impressive network. You have the resources. But calm down. You'll become president on some stage. But he was in a hurry. Several years later, he has to see the Asorok, understand it's called Asorok. Because Obasanjo told him, you're not going to become president in my lifetime. So relax, calm down. Now, there are many books we've been told to read.
If I can hold you there, Dismas, and actually, you're actually right, because in this case, the most that Abubakar ever became was the chairman of an international university in Nigeria. And his money, I cannot speak for him at this point. But yes, you're right. Obasanjo is still alive. Abubakar has still not become president of Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
Then we are told that when you're looking at those 48 rules of power, there are many. Number one, never, ever outshine your boss. There's another one, never reveal your true colors very early in the day. And then know the person you are dealing with. It seems to me that Dr. Ruto doesn't actually know who President Kenyatta is. He thought it was going to be a walk in the park. And you remember we were told during the Jubilee Party primaries, there was a lot of mischief going on, so that people who were said to be loyal to President Kenyatta were kicked out because Ruto was looking at 2022. And all this time, people thought that it was going to be a very solid presidency, whereby the deputy president would sit pretty. Like they were told, first ladies are supposed to sit pretty and wait for your time. When you see Donald Trump addressing a news conference, with his deputy called vice president called Pence.
Mike Pence.
Pence sits quietly.
Yep.
Only speaks when he's told to speak. Yeah. And when he's speaking, every statement says that Trump has made his position very clear. Trump told us to do this, because he knows who the boss is. Now, if you do not appreciate who the boss is, you're soon going to be in trouble. And in Kenya, you've got a perfect example. Mzee Moi, he was a vice president for a long time, and people used to step on his toes. This is the vice president of the Republic of Kenya going to his Kabarak home. He gets policemen. They tell him, Mr. Vice President, we have reason to believe that you're acquiring weapons in your car. Get out. These are vice president. He gets out of the car. They inspect the car. Anamwambia mzee mambo iko sawa. Proceed. This is a vice president in charge of even prisons, and you're intimidating, but he said, let me play cool.
Yep.
And I think the biggest challenge for Samuel Ruto is because he's got very good political capital. Imagine this was a co-presidency. So 50-50, we are equal shareholders. We go to the board meeting. I'm not going to sit and listen. I've got my position. If we disagree, I'm walking away with my 50% shareholding. Now he's discovered that there's another person who is coming to replace him, because there's no vacuum. Physics. A vacuum shall never exist.
Dismas, is what we are seeing the curse of that number 2 position that has been sort of the thing happening in Kenya? Like if you look at the vice presidents that have ascended into power immediately, I think we can only talk of Moi.
Well, Moi took office immediately, but you remember that was because of death of the Kenyatta, but also there was Kibaki. But I think the golden rule is manage your expectations. You know you have what it takes to be president. Just calm down. You are very young. You're not yet even 60. Play your cards. I mean, look at Biden. Biden had this budding ambition to become president after Obama.
Yep.
But he knew he had to assist Obama complete his term in total. Then when Obama is done, he'll give you unlimited support.
Yeah.
In fact, if Samuel Ruto would have said, I'm going to be loyal, 100% loyal to Kenyatta, I'll assist him do his 10 years, then maybe during the last 1 year, I'll ask President Kenyatta to endorse me so that I run for president in 2022.
Yeah.
But we do not start campaigning right at the beginning of the second term. So now you have two issues. Are we doing 2022 today, or we are focusing on my boss's legacy?
True.
The president tells you, stop tanga-tangaring. Then, you know, in a very clever manner, you say, no, tanga-tangaring is for me to go and inspect Jubilee projects and come give you feedback whether you are making good progress. There's not a single president who would be so excited to know that my deputy president is gaining political capital by the day, creating infrastructure in my village in Gatundu that he can even upset tables in my village, in my home, where my local MP is going to bed with my political competition within the political party. Nobody, I mean, you would even be the best leader in the world, but you have to be uncomfortable.
True.
That's why we are told, even when you are at home, there's no room for competition. The head of the house is known. If it's the husband or the wife, the head of the house is known. And there's no competition, so that you start taking your kids to the corner telling them, you know, your mother is horrible, you know, your father is horrible. No, the family will soon collapse.
But now back to my question. Next steps for William Ruto.
He's got two good options. He can secure a Damascus moment today, call his boss and tell him, my friend, my apologies. I did not understand your expectations. Let's celebrate a new beginning. I'll be waking up every day in the morning, coming to your office. We go through the newspapers. You give me instructions on what to do. I deliver on that. So that he can remain, you know, a loyal deputy president till 2022. Or he can take a decision. He says, I've had enough. I'm calling all my troops. We are resigning from government. Then I get 2 years to form a very vigorous opposition. So he has those two options. But I suspect he will not resign, because the moment he resigns today, he's going to lose all his political power. For the first time in a long while, he'll be going to buy fuel at a petrol station. He'll start paying for his security. He'll start paying for his choppers.
He has to move out of the house.
Yeah, he has to move out of the house. Understand, you know, if you do that, if you resign today as a deputy president, Then some folks will tell you want to do fumigation, the COVID thing, you need to clean all government properties. So you'll be thrown out of the house immediately. You'll not have access to government resources.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge for majority of politicians is logistics. The cost of traveling from Sugoi to Mombasa, Kisumu to go and do campaigns. Now, as a vice president, the bill is taken care by Mora. In the event he resigns, then the bill will be taken care by Ruto in person.
Yeah.
So does he have a third option of just sitting and waiting and seeing, just sitting and just being there?
Continue doing exactly what you're doing now.
Which is like nothing. Can he just...
No, campaign.
No. He's not doing nothing.
He's campaigning.
But COVID, you can't campaign much.
Every day.
Sorry, Dismas?
No, you can do virtual campaigns. You can ask your psycho fans, supporters, and allies to do news conferences. And keep on turning a fire.
Can do Facebook live gigs every so often.
All these things, yeah. But I think what serves the interest of Mura back in Mososho is for all these key political players in Kenya, starting from President Kenyatta, his deputy Raila Odinga, Musalia, Wetangula, Kalonzo, all of them to understand that there are many Kenyans who are bleeding today who have lost jobs. You saw recently a lady in Mombasa who was boiling eggs, actually boulders, so that kids can go to bed.
Yes.
Now, these leaders must create the opportunity for us to thrive. Yeah, and then when we get to 2022, we agree that we are only going to have 3 weeks for a campaign. I mean, in the UK, campaigns are only for 3 weeks. In Kenya, campaigns are for 5 years. Now, is it not a voodoo logic that you call a public rally on a Wednesday, people are supposed to be at work, but Uhuru Park is packed to the rafters, and then you say, I'm a powerful politician.
Yeah.
And that's a statement of unemployment right there. Right now, the economy is suffering, and instead of the president and the deputy presidents coming together and saying, how do we sort out a morale? The best way to sort morale is to cut the cost of energy, cost of cooking, ugali, unga. But what happens? You're giving money to corporates that have been mismanaged, and not because of COVID. Right now, KQ wants an obscene amount of money. It's not as if they started making losses because of COVID, but they're going to be given the resources. But poor Mora is left alone,
at home.
Being kicked out at Kariobangi, and all these kind of things. And we need our leaders to understand that these leadership positions is not about their selfish interest.
True.
It's about our national and public interest.
Let's open up the conversation and now invite our audience to join in 0719-012-600. First off is Zachary in Nakuru. Good morning, Zachary.
Oh, good morning, guys.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so happy and I'm following the debate. And even the analyst has come up with good ideas and input that actually sheds more light on this issue. Now, let me tell you, Mr. Eric, that I would advise the deputy president, and Mr. Ruto and Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta have got one chemistry because they were taken to the ICC and they suffered, equal. Let me tell Mr. Ruto this, that his money is his undoing. If you look at the character of his foot soldiers, he should desist from giving those guys money. Some of these people who are pro Ruto, and they are the ones who throw a lot of vital to the relationship between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto. If he knows them, he would know that they are following him because of the bread that he is giving them. Because of the money. If he doesn't give them money, and some of these characters are very well known to us, they drive in controversy. Their expenditure is over what they get, and therefore they have seen a moving ATM in the form of Mr. Ruto. Let me tell you, if he closes the tap of money, he will realize that the only faithful friend that he has is only Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. As simple as that.
Okay. That's a good point, Zachary. Asante sana.
Have a good day.
Cheers, you too.
Teddy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to contribute about that topic.
Go ahead.
I think Ruto is on a safe road because what he has done, he has caused some chaos in Jubilee. So if KANU maybe forms an alliance with the Jubilee, they form an alliance with the Jubilee.
Teddy, you're working from home, clearly.
Yes, I'll call you back.
Okay.
Just allow me to do something.
So we'll have your call. He says he's going to call back. His co-workers at home have interrupted this conversation. It happens a lot, Dismas, as well.
So, Dismas, what's the end game here? And the end game, one for Jubilee and the president, the end game for ODM and Raila, knowing that there's a handshake somewhere at the background of all of these things.
It's when you look at President Kenyatta, he wants to secure a legacy. The first 5 years of his term, he didn't achieve much progress because, there was the cloud of ICC. So he was hoping that during the second time he would concretize his position and run with everything. But he has spent the first 2 years, trying to dodge those landmines occasioned by his deputy. And I think he sees COVID as a blessing in disguise because now he's going to reset his legacy from COVID and take us to the next level. And his biggest challenge, just like Bill Clinton, is a very young man. He's going to be around for another 50 years. So you don't want to be around for 50 years and everybody saying, had President Kenyatta done this, would be in this direction. So he has the challenge to do that. And then, of course, now comes in KANU. Now, the interesting thing in KANU is that the party leader, who is a 5-star general, has decided to appoint a 1-star general as his leader. So Senator Gideon Moe will be seated at the Senate, and his 1-star general is the majority leader.
Yeah.
That's an interesting aspect because Gideon would have run with this. Yeah, but for ODM, wherever Raila Odinga is seated, he's having popcorns and he's really enjoying it. He's having a moment of his lifetime saying, now moving forward, President Kenyatta has to dance to my tune. Because making progress, if President Kenyatta wants to do anything at the National Assembly or the Senate,
he has to
have a conversation with Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
They have to agree on a particular point.
Yeah.
Which is why we keep on asking ourselves, is their relationship anchored on public and national interests? Because even right now, we should have been given our exit strategy from this COVID. Right now, we don't know where we are. We don't know where we are going. We should be told how do we make progress. But Raila cannot ask that question because it's part of the people are supposed to be giving the answer.
He should be knowing.
In a circle, yeah.
Let's go back to
Let's
go back to the phone lines. Ken Bogo calling in from Moranga. Good morning, Ken. He's gone off. He's going to come in. I think Ken is the one who called us yesterday from Moranga and he said it doesn't matter. It doesn't
matter. Kwa ground,
he sticks with the deputy president. Ken, good morning. Salama kabisa. How are you?
Good morning.
Mimi naitwa Ken Bogo kutoka Moranga.
Yes.
Wacha nikwambie show yenu leo iko poa. I think this time tumefanya kazi. Nataka kuambia viongozi wetu, huu sio wakati wa siasa. Tuangalie yenye inatutokea. For example, the other guy here alingojeka jana. Is a quarantine on last night. Sasa hii tunaenda watu wanamshughulikia tu. And
aligonjeka jana akapelekwa quarantine, or what are you saying? We didn't get him. We've lost him again. So basically, as we come to the conclusion of this show, you've given us what you think is the way forward for Raila Odinga. What do you think is the way forward for William Ruto? And of course, you're also saying that it's sitting to observe as Gideon Moe sits in the Senate and Pogisio is the majority leader who's a member of his party. And Gideon basically just keeps signaling to him,
do this, man.
Do this.
Take a left. Take a right. No. Don't speak now. Wait.
But in my view, Latif, what we need to ask ourselves is that these people we elect to the National Assembly, Senate, the presidency, the governor's mansions,
yep,
whose interest do they actually serve? Like, for instance, when this issue of COVID came up, our members of the National Assembly and Senate did a runner to their bankers, to their villages. They left us Nairobi high and dry, while their colleagues in the US and the UK were coming up with legislation to support their nations. So for us, our members, elected members, they're coming after the horse has bolted. So it means that in 2022, we need to be very rational human beings and vote with our selfish interest in mind.
Yep.
Right now, we have people in government who want to become governors and presidents. We need to ask them, when the rain started beating us around COVID, where were you? Like, for instance, I've not seen the deputy president coming up with any policy prescriptions. So if you're not able to influence the thinking of Kenya today and you are number 2, how can we trust you in 2022?
But Dismas, why speaking from both sides of you want, on one hand, you want him to deputize and wait for the leadership and direction to come from the president. The next, you want him to give policy direction. Choose one.
I'm drawing parallels with Pence. You see, Pence was appointed by his boss to be the chairman of the COVID response team.
But here, the CS for Health is one who was appointed to sit at the National Emergency Response Committee and not the deputy president.
The question is, why did the president appoint the CS for Health instead of his deputy president?
Why didn't he not appoint the deputy president instead of the CS for Health?
Now, if as a deputy president, you've not inspired confidence in your president and you are causing discomfort, then I'll not trust you, because, the question I suspect the president was asking himself, if I appoint this gentleman to this committee, or even to chair that committee with many names, is he going to pursue our national and public interest, or is he going to use it as a campaign
as a platform
for 2022? Yeah, anywhere where you work, you cannot afford to make your boss uncomfortable.
And
you must inspire confidence to the highest level.
And so Dismas, my final question to you is, looking at all of these happenings, and even Kipchumba Murkomen is saying, if Kipchumba is the one who's been blocking your aspirations to do development, he's out. Do you think the president will leave some legacy, legacy?
Will there be a change?
With all of these changes?
You see, right now, you are left with about 2.5 years. I'm not sure that 2.5 years is enough to create anything monumental, come up with a eureka moment. I doubt. And if I'm the president, the only thing I'll focus right now is to focus on a socioeconomic recovery strategy post-COVID. But more important, ensure that the elections in 2022 are going to reflect the will of the people. You remember during the last election, there was a petition at the Supreme Court. Then there's a little matter of the server which has not been seen to date. So President Kenyatta must ensure that in 2022, when we go to cast our ballot, there's no difference between the ballot cast and the person who becomes the winner.
Yeah.
And the ballot's counted.
And then number two, even for us Kenyans, we must really ask ourselves, are we going to become emotional and irrational every time we are going to vote, so that now we are victims, we are held hostage by tribal leaders purporting to be national leaders?
True. Good
because
point.
You see, look at these other countries with very solid leadership. Look at New Zealand. Look at Australia, Singapore, South Korea. They've been able to manage COVID in a manner that has not been seen anywhere. Even look at Germany. For people who are struggling today, you can apply for the bailout, you will get the money. It's because these people elect solid leaders, but as we elect impunity, mediocrity,
we elect our friends.
Yeah, they expect democracy.
Dismas Mutua, political analyst, we thank you very much for speaking to us.
My pleasure.
Have a good day.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
He brought in something, and I think Mercy goes in line with what you were saying.
Yeah, because looking at all of these things, then this politics do not matter, at least not now. We have bigger issues, as he says. We are looking at COVID, which is a threat, a perpetual threat this whole year, and it's bound to continue for the rest of the year. We're looking at floods, which has caused over 200 deaths, and it is causing immediate threat to families. Thousands have been displaced. You're looking at blood crisis, for example. We do not have blood. Our mothers are bleeding in hospitals or needing blood because they have complications during delivery, do not have blood. So is this the right time to really do these changes? Are they going to do anything drastic, any drastic changes that will alter our response to COVID, our response to floods, our response to all of these economic problems that we are facing? Is this the time to do this?
I dare say it's never
personality, politics more than even ideology? Because what we're seeing here is just removing this particular person and replacing with the other one. The thinking is the same. Nothing has changed. So we're just reorganizing the political space as opposed to doing something that is of public interest that will safeguard me and assure me that up to the end of the year, at least for this COVID period, the floods and whatnot, I am safeguarded, and not that I'll be out in the cold as the politicians line and realign themselves and make themselves comfortable. So at the end of the day, this is just, we are back to what we are used to doing. Personality A versus personality B, but Mwananchi is never anywhere in that mix.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masi. Bottom line, what she's saying is, politicians, you are pursuing your own personal selfish interests, and you're forgetting that we've got bigger interests as a country. We are fighting COVID, people are being killed by floods, people are being displaced, and all these things need to be addressed in much more vigor than you're addressing them, and with maybe equal vigor as what you are doing, trying to replace leadership in the National Assembly. Today's proverb, as we come to the end of the show: no matter how long a log stays in water, it does not become a crocodile. Maybe you voted this log and you expected it to become a crocodile, and you forgot. No matter how long you dipped it in that water, it was never going to convert from log to crocodile. See you again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Situation Room continues. Between now and 2 o'clock is uninterrupted music, and then 2 to 6, Monique will be here with Spice Drive, and then thereafter, the adults in the room. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.